Hello, everyone, and welcome to the virtual TLC Symposium. I'm Tabitha Strickler, and I'm so excited to be able to welcome you and kick us off for this exciting venture. Not sure if you are aware of how this whole thing came about, but it really came about through an actual symposium that was going to be held in Virginia's Region 1 on April 18th, 2020. That obviously will not be happening with the coronavirus pandemic. That conference was targeted toward beginning teachers in years 0 to 5. And it really was a time, we've hosted symposia throughout the state for the last several years, really is a time to build up these beginning teachers, to give them tips and expertise and hope in a time that sometimes that time of the year gets to be a little rough. Well, what's interesting now is we are in an extremely rough time, all of us. It is not just beginning teachers anymore. Our audience really opened up. And so when we decided to go virtual and to make this conference one that anyone could access just from the internet. So I'm excited to kick us off with my presentation today called Survive and Thrive in 2020 and Beyond. I will host a Zoom follow-up session on Thursday, April 16th, 2020. I'll tell you more about that at the end of this presentation. And then my friend JT Taylor will be doing something similar. He'll have a video presentation. His topic is resilience. And it is good, people. It is good. Be sure to tune in to JT. He will also be holding a Zoom follow-up session later in the month. So check out what's available. I really hope that you can take advantage of the opportunities that we're providing for all teachers everywhere, because we are definitely all in the same boat right now. And that's a lot of what I want to talk about today. So I mentioned before that the symposia was targeted for beginning teachers, but our experience now has brought us all to this beginning teacher land almost. The coronavirus has brought really unparalleled changes to our personal and professional lives. I mean, it's really tough. It's really tough. And it's really tough no matter if we have taught 1 year or 41 years. These changes are very, very tough. So I thought I would bring a few points to us today, some strategies and some thoughts that might help us not only survive this school year, because really that's a good goal, definitely goal for survival. But instead of that bare minimum, let's seek to not just survive, but also thrive, to really grow and enjoy this time, figure out how to enjoy this time. And how to make the most of it. And so that, I hope what I have to say will help us both personally and professionally, and also help us as we help our students. Okay? I mentioned my name earlier, Tabitha Strickler. I am an English and Virginia Teachers for Tomorrow teacher at Colonial Heights High School, where I have been a teacher for 19 years, even in the same classroom. Well, shout out to my room 205 fam there. In 2008, I was really blessed to be recognized as the Region 1 Teacher of the Year in Virginia. And that has opened up a lot of doors and a lot of friends that I've been able to network with and learn from and grow with in the Virginia Teacher of the Year Network. I also am a member of VASCD, and so that partnership has come about, and we are excited to be able to pass along some expertise to you from Virginia's Teachers of the Year and also VASCD members and leaders. Okay? This picture right here, when I saw it, it really made me think about what's happening in education right now and what's happening with us. We are in this very unique balancing situation. It's like we are learning how to ride this unicycle as it's being built, and we're balancing lots of other things too. Things seem to change by the minute. And those changes have far-reaching impacts on what is happening for our students in this spring and beyond. So the changes that have happened, I mean, there's so much that we are just not used to. And I think that's important that we acknowledge that, and that's okay. We are all doing the same thing, and we are all doing the best we can. But we really do have to seek to take care of ourselves in the midst of this. If we don't keep ourselves aware of what's going on with us, we aren't going to be as effective for our students, our coworkers, our own families, and ourselves. Our resilience is not just for ourselves. Really, this is for a bigger audience, a bigger goal in mind. Our students, our families, our own personal families, and ourselves. When we become overly stressed, we might lose sight of and not be our very best for those people. And that's really, really important. So I feel like this is a picture of us trying to survive right now. If you look at this combination of a lot of words here in the word cloud, is what I believe we can do. I believe we can do this hard and brave work of adjusting our mindset to not only survive the now, but also thrive in the now and in the future. I believe there are critically important attitudes for us to nurture within ourselves so that we can nurture the same spirit within our students. So those 5 attitudes that I want to talk about, I guess we can think of them kind of like mindset mantras that we all have within us, and we might need to nurture some more than others, and maybe some more than others on some certain days as well. Hopefully this will help us work within this year and also into the future. And also, I really want to emphasize how this is helping us personally, but also professionally as well. So our first topic is humility. Humility is not typically the first thing that you think about when you think of a leader, right? The first trait that comes to mind might be their vision or their charisma, their courage, that sort of thing. Sometimes humility is not at the top of that list, but really powerful leaders know that humility is a key part of their success. Take a look at these questions here about leadership. I'll give you a second to take a look. Think about leaders and how this is related to humility. Let's think about how leaders must inspire trust and cooperation and commitment. Humility is the way to inspire this. Humility is not linked to weakness or subservience, but in fact, it's quite the opposite. It is one of the strongest things that we can do for ourselves and others. Got a series of quotations here that I really like, having to do with humility. The image there, I'm sure you've heard that statement before. If you were the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. I think this is a time with the coronavirus that we are all kind of equal and as educators, and we need to be humble and learn from others and be able to really take that opportunity to grow and to not think that we have it all together or we have to have it all together either. Another quote here in the upper right-hand corner that I love: when things go wrong, humble leaders admit to their mistakes and take responsibility. When things go right, they shine the spotlight on others. I hope you've been able to see that in your school division already this spring since we've been closed down with the coronavirus. I hope that your leadership has been solid. If it hasn't, seek out comfort, seek out friends that can help strengthen you in this time that is really, really tough. Okay. Speaking of strength, our second topic is resilience. And a lot of what I have to talk about is from this book called Option B. And it was written by this woman here. and Adam Grant. Okay, and we'll get to him in a second. This looks like a lovely couple, doesn't it? These people are Sheryl Sandberg and Dave Goldberg. Sheryl Sandberg is the Facebook COO. She's the author of the bestseller Lean In. And this was her husband, Dave Goldberg. He was the SurveyMonkey CEO. And they were on a family vacation in Mexico for a friend's 50th birthday celebration. And while they were there, Goldberg died suddenly and unexpectedly of heart failure while on an elliptical machine. He was 47 years old. Sheryl had to pick up the pieces and move forward. And I'm sure you can think about how incredibly hard that was. She detailed some of that tough stuff in that book called Option B. And this quote from the book is by the co-author Adam Grant. It says, "The amount of resilience people have isn't fixed. Resilience is the strength and speed of our response to adversity, and we can build it." So how awesome is that to think about that our resilience is not at one level and cannot be changed. It can always be built upon and improved. And that adversity is kind of necessary in the resilience piece. If we're going to grow, we have to have faced adversity. And we definitely are facing some adverse times right now within education. There's no doubt. So this, like I said, this was by Adam Grant in the book. He was already an acquaintance of Sandberg and her husband. So when Sandberg decided to write her accounts, she brought Adam in as a co-writer to help her in that. Let me share this quotation for you about resilience. And I've highlighted some words that I think are especially important for us. Resilience depends on supportive, responsive relationships and mastering a set of capabilities that can help us respond and adapt to adversity in healthy ways. It's those capacities and relationships that can turn toxic stress into tolerable stress. Many of us, all of us, have been facing some toxic stress. This is unparalleled, what is happening in our world today. But that stress, if we work within these relational constructs here, we can really adapt in healthy ways to grow and become more resilient. That toxic stress can be turned into tolerable stress. And that ultimately, I feel like this is where it comes in. We need to do that for ourselves personally. And then think about our students are looking to us for this as well. We are that steady presence in their lives. And while we're not seeing each other every day in the classroom anymore, we can be that presence of resilience, that encouragement, that the toxic stress that they are feeling, there is hope for them to turn it into tolerable stress. One of the ways that they can turn that toxic stress into tolerable stress is through developing grit. A lot of what I have to say about grit comes from Angela Duckworth's book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance. She really is the guru of grit. She has an excellent TED Talk I would recommend that you check out. What it is the passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And she says one way to think about grit is to think about what it isn't. It isn't talent. It isn't luck. Grit isn't how intensely, for the moment, you want something. So what it is here, grit is about having what some researchers call an ultimate concern, a goal you care so much that it organizes and gives meaning to almost everything you do. And grit is holding steadfast to that goal, even when you fall down, even when you screw up, even when progress toward that goal is halting or slow. As we've transitioned or are transitioning to online learning and distance learning, There is a huge learning curve. Huge, huge, right? This grit is this stick-to-itiveness, if you will, to be able to persevere and continue and hold steadfast to the goal of bringing education to our students, and that care and that relationship that is so, so, so important. So I hope you can see where grit is important. Two other ways that were mentioned in the book about grit is how purpose can help us develop our grit. This idea that our work is a calling, that our work makes the world a better place, that we are more satisfied in our jobs because we feel this purpose. I hope that you can see how valuable teachers are, how valuable school counselors are, how valuable school cafeteria workers are, how valuable custodians are, how valuable assistant principals and superintendents are. Man, this coronavirus has really, I think, put into perspective how important school is, and how it is not just about classes. It is not just a building, but we have this true calling, this purpose. And we have this purpose to bring, let's go ahead to the second topic there, hope. Hope is the expectation that our own efforts can improve our future. So think about the way that if you're thinking about the next day, how it could be different if you're thinking about, I have a feeling tomorrow will be better, versus I resolve to make tomorrow better. This grit really is about making the choice and being brave and doing courageous things to resolve, to take action, and to be there for each other when we need to. We might need to, we might have a day that we're falling a little bit and have other people support us. That leads us into our next topic of vulnerability. That made me think about when I was saying that other people might need to help us out whenever we are at some low points. And I think if we're truthful with ourselves, we have had a lot since this began around mid-March. So that vulnerability is important for us to seek to nurture in ourselves, and for us to model for our students too. Some of what I have quoted comes from Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. But Brené Brown is amazing. And she really talks a lot about shame, vulnerability, courage, empathy, and leadership. And I challenge you and highly recommend Brené Brown. A little bit here, what I want to talk about vulnerability. She gives the definition here as uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. But vulnerability is not weakness. It's our most accurate measure of courage. That makes me think back to what we talked about humility, how humility is actually not weakness or subservience. It's the opposite of that, is a strength. In the same way, vulnerability is also, it's scary. It's very scary to be our real and authentic selves, with our coworkers and our bosses and our students, to be able to say, this is scary. I don't really know how this is going to turn out. I don't know how our school year will exactly work out, but I know this is what we would be able to say to our students, hopefully. But I know that I will be there for you to help you every single step of the way. That authentic self, that vulnerability, is sometimes a little difficult. And let's look at this picture here to think about every minute of every day. The anxiety surrounding our lives is very, very real right now. Our goal should be to do the very best we can with what we have at that moment. And we can show courageous vulnerability by showing up and being brave and admitting when we are struggling. Our students truly appreciate our authentic selves, not the person who we think we need to be. That's kind of deep. I need to hear that again. Our students truly appreciate our authentic selves, not the person who we think we need to be. This is true outside of the pandemic, but now our being courageous, real, and grace-filled allows our students to have a model for themselves as well. And I think that's so important. The last topic I want to talk about is also so important. All of these, this is actually a skeleton of a presentation I gave for my school division last August. Obviously, no mention of the pandemic. It was targeted for beginning teachers and important elements, attitudes to take into that first year or beginning years to give ourselves grace and courage and bravery. But this last topic is also important, not only in that beginning teacher time, but for all of us all the time. And I think maybe especially in this pandemic time, and that is optimism. So optimism involves learning to think positively about the future, even when things go wrong. It's about looking objectively at a situation, making a conscious decision to focus on the good. Now, it's important and helpful to realize that our brains are adaptive. They change throughout our lives. So if we have not had the most optimistic tendencies in the past, that can be changed. And how awesome would that be to pass along that malleability of the brain here with optimism? How awesome would that be to pass along to our students as well, that they can find optimism in some pretty difficult times if they choose to. Chase Milkey, I took this from his book, The Burnout Cure. It is excellent. He is excellent. I encourage you to follow him and check him out as well. I thought that this was especially helpful for our discussion. So you can see at the top, he's got adversity leads to attitude, leads to action, leads to outcome. And then he said, our attitude after an adversity affects whether we take empowered action or allow powerless inaction. I think a theme that I'm hearing myself talk about here in multiple ways and multiple times is that we have to make a conscious decision to lead, a conscious decision to be brave, to be courageous, to do the scary stuff, to help support ourselves and to help support our students. So I hope that we all can take that empowered action and move forward in a very scary time, for uncertain time, I guess I should say, for ourselves and our students. This quotation here, I've highlighted some important things. Optimism is more than positive thinking. It's a way to combat learned helplessness that is created when one approaches a challenge with a defeated mindset. So it's not just this glass half full. I think that the glass, it's really how we react to the glass being broken, right? That adversity is what maybe brings on and shows what we really are. And another thing to leave with you here, realistic optimists recognize reality constraints and aspire to probable outcomes. They see the path to success as full of twists and turns. Consequently, they are not risk averse. Teaching students about optimism can help them see unpleasant events as learning opportunities. And man, are we learning in so many ways right now, are we not? That is ultimately what we want our students to take away, though, that this does not have to define them, right? That they can move forward in personal and academic ways. They can move on and be very successful. And it is up to us to be that support for them, that optimistic, every day choosing to see the good, to be able to help them see the good every day as well. I'm going to leave you with the idea here. It is a quote by Brene Brown, who I alluded to before, and I really like it. Twinkle lights are the perfect metaphor for joy. Joy is not a constant. It comes to us in moments, often ordinary moments. Sometimes we miss out on the bursts of joy because we're too busy chasing down extraordinary moments. I think this time at home, our shelter in place, has brought many people at least, to seeing the ordinary moments that perhaps we weren't looking for. We definitely weren't looking for them. Maybe we would see them, but we didn't let them really sink in. Many of us are seeing those ordinary moments in such a deeper way right now. And how much more should we work to do that for ourselves so that we can help our students do that as well, to be able to see the joy in the ordinary, because there's so much joy out there. And I hope that these attitudes of grit and resilience and optimism and humility and resilience, optimism, humility, and vulnerability. Those 5 attitudes can help us move forward with maybe a more positive mindset. I mentioned before that I'll be hosting a Zoom forum, a follow-up to this presentation. It will be Thursday, April 16th, 2020, from 3 to 4 p.m. You can register through VASCD, or if you'd like to contact me directly, I have my email address there, and I can send you the link to be able to register for the Zoom forum. I look forward to talking with you some more, talking with each other about how those elements we can move forward with and learn from and grow from. Be well, and thank you so much.